go. Sure, the youngest one sits down. It's always the way it works. If you'll all come around this way, gather close so we can let people get by us.
I have a question.
Yes?
How many miles per hour is the times the speed of sound?
The speed, that's an excellent question. The speed of sound, the speed of sound at sea level, which you don't want to ever see, is about 760 miles an hour. At 40 to 50,000 feet, it's about 100 miles an hour slower, about 660. So 2 times would be 1320.
So why isn't the jumbo jet considered supersonic?
Because it doesn't go faster than the speed of sound. It can only be considered supersonic if it goes faster than the speed.
It doesn't go beyond 660?
No. Oh gosh, no.
So what does your average commercial plane fly at?
That's a good question. 4 to 500 miles an hour.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very good question.
How much fuel per passenger does
I'm sorry, if 747?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be a good thing to know. And probably it was in here at one time, but it's long gone. I'm lucky I can remember
half, maybe? Half of what
It's got to be. Oh, it has to be half. So anyway, I mentioned before, if you recall, that some of our airplanes are one of a kind. You can't see them anywhere else in the world. I'm going to point out a couple of them right now, real quickly. This is the Arado 234B Blitz, a German-built jet aircraft, the first operational jet bomber in history. These are Umo jet engines with the red circles on the engines here. They got about 20 or 30 of these operational. They had many, many more airframes, but the Germans were running out of everything at the end of the war, and they couldn't get enough engines to build more. Early jet technology was not very efficient, and you needed a lot of air to flow through the engine in order to get it up to maximum speed. And what that would require would be a long runway, and at the end of the war, the Germans had no long runways. American fighters like our P-47 Thunderbolt were chewing up runways all over northern Europe. So the German engineers came up with an interesting idea, rocket-assisted takeoff, RATO. This is a rocket pack on each wing. I'll just point one over here, sir. This is a rocket engine. Each wing had a rocket engine. You ignite those babies, this airplane got up airborne in a big hurry. Then when the engines had enough air flowing through them, the pilot would jettison those rocket packs. That's a parachute in the little canvas pouch. And they would float back down to be reused. Very, very ingenious.
Yeah.
This is a single-seat bomber. This is a busy guy. He's the bomber, the bombardier, he's the pilot, he's the radio operator, he's the navigator. And up on top, that's a periscope. This is a B version. The A version of the Arado had a machine gun out the tail, and he was going to shoot the machine gun using the periscope. I can't back up my car using my rearview mirror. I don't know how anybody thought they were going to hit anything. I guess they figured out with the B version, no one's going to catch this airplane, so let's eliminate. It's the only Arado left in the world. You're looking at the only one left. Let's switch places with you. We'll talk about this Japanese aircraft here. You okay? You want to come through? Or do you want to hear about this airplane? I know she does. We'll gather right here for a minute. We're going to talk about this airplane, the Seiron. Seiron in Japanese means storm from the clear sky. Remember before I mentioned Admiral Yamamoto, the genius behind the attack on Pearl Harbor? He knew that the Japanese could not defeat the Americans in a long, drawn-out war, and he thought his second bold move would be to bomb Washington, D.C. and New York City. He was going to have 40 to 50 of these airplanes bomb the East Coast of the United States. This was his second bold move. Fortunately, for all of us standing here, he was killed in that crash in 1943. And these airplanes delayed and delayed and delayed. How was he going to get a single-engine float plane from Japan to the East Coast of the United States? By submarine. The Japanese built 4 gigantic submarines. They were the size of our destroyers. that each had a watertight compartment on board that could hold 3 of these airplanes if they were broken down in pieces. But the amazing thing is the Japanese crews on those submarines could reassemble all 3 airplanes in 3 minutes. Sorry, 30 minutes. That 3 does sound good. By the end of the war, they got the first one off in 4 minutes, but it was 30 minutes. The first airplane, 7 minutes. By the end of the training, 4 minutes. The pontoons come off. Oh, by the way, the pontoons were used for training. The pilot would get launched off the submarine, fly around, come back, land, and they'd bring them back on board. For the missions to New York and Washington, no pontoons. It was a one-way trip. It was a one-way trip. Most of the Japanese airplanes that we have here, this one's nickname is the George. I have a Nick, I have an Irving. They all have American nicknames. We all nickname the airplanes. There's no nickname for Seiran. And the reason is we did not even know the airplane existed until the war was over. As far as they never became operational. They almost did. That's a long story. I can tell you another time. They almost became operational. The submarine commander was told to dump them overboard because right at the end of the war, they were heading towards a surprise attack against Americans. The war ended. The commanders of the submarines were told, dump them overboard. We don't want the Allies to even know that we have them. It's the only Seiran left in the world. Is this one right here. Okay.
Where was it established from?
After the war, American aviators and engineers scoured Japan and Germany, the factories, the airfields, to find anything, any new developments. What were the enemy looking into? And that's when they found this in a Japanese factory. Like I said, the other 6 had been dumped overboard. I think there maybe were just a few more, and they're gone to history. Okay, good question. Anything else? Let's go see Discovery.